Hey everybody, Jay Barino here. Thanks for joining me today for a game of Direct Strike. Had some bad lag at the beginning of the episode, so we're starting just like a couple seconds further into it. We randomed into Dahaka. And who do we have here? We've got a Rainer against a Stukov here. Vultures is what he definitely needs to do. And then, again, we are Dahaka against... Oh, that's probably the enemy worker. Oh, I've changed my... There we go. That's what we want. So we're against Red. Red is Vorazun. So, as Dahaka against Vorazun, typically we kind of do the same stuff, which is you rush to Creeper Host. Though we could try some different stuff here just to see, you know, as opposed to doing the same thing all the time. So what I'll do is I'll get my worms out. So now we have those to help us out, and I'll go to Tier 2. And the nice thing about Dahaka is because of the worms, you can typically win... excuse me, you could typically win the first several waves and get a sense of what your opponent is doing, which I think is way better than committing to anything too early. Alright, it's my first match of the day. My game's been doing some weird stuff again. I had some really bad lag right at the beginning, then my cursor wasn't locked, etc., etc. You know what? Doesn't matter about those spider mines. He's eating them up. There we go. Still only one Centurion from Vorazun. Well, again, we have to see what Vorazun is going to do before anything else. I'll turn off the auto cast of the Devour here later. I don't really care, again, if as long as I'm barely winning my wave, you know, I'm not going to be able to do much damage to the cannon regardless. I can decide what I'm going to do with my skill points later as well. Again, it's really just waiting to see what this Vorazun's going to do. So, the issue, I think, is that Vorazun Corsairs will win. Will ultimately win against us. So what I can do is I can rush to Tier 3, and the reason for that is not necessarily Creeper Hosts, but if you want to make anti-air against Vorazun, you probably need to make Tyrannosaurs, which do AoE anti-air. But that's if he even decides to do that. If he decides to go ground, then we can make Impalers and Creeper Hosts, for example. But we don't know, again, what this Vorazun's going to do, and as Dahaka, my good units are all very, very expensive, whereas Vorazun's across the board are relatively cheap, except Dark Archons. So I would rather not commit to anything. Again, you see, I tend to play more reactive, but it really depends on who I'm playing as. Because my current commander has very expensive units, I can't afford to just not... I can't afford to just, to plop down whatever and then have them be ultimately countered. So I would rather just wait to see what he's going to do. We can go ahead and get 2 extractors as well. Probably should have just gotten those a little earlier, but instead I chose to get my worms instead, which I should be using to help out here. This guy cannot decide what he's doing. Again, as long as we retain the middle bonus, I'm happy. And then we'll put this one down here. Again, these 3 reset every time. I think this is a remixed blood. This is Ludwig, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it is. So our Stukov's going to start having some issues, and we will use our worms to help us kind of clean up this initial issue. I'm going to need these worms though to deal with cloaked stuff. Again, I'm still waiting. Like, okay, so he's going Void Rays. We want to turn off Devour. We're not going to win this, but because he's going Void Rays, what I can do is make Mutalisks, or I can just go straight into Creeper Hosts because I can afford them now. Put down our Greater Nidus Worm here, and again, I know I've done this in the past, but I think it makes sense to make Creeper Hosts here. I think Rainer versus Horner, I think Horner could win if he went Wraiths, not necessarily Vikings. So it's interesting to see. Vorazun could be countered pretty well by Intimidating Roar level 2 because it'll stop Oracles from using anything that costs energy, meaning their normal attack. I think we want to evolve Devour. And we can go ahead and do Primal Regeneration, and we've got our Creeper Hosts out now. The issue is going to be the leftovers here from... There we go, grab this. And because Dahaka's not armored, we should be fine here. It's just eventually he's not going to be able to attack up. We also need to allow our Creeper Host to attack air. Okay, and he's no longer allowed to attack up. But again, the important thing is that we're able to retain this middle bonus, and then Rainier can come in and easily clean up the Void Rays. I don't know why he chose to go Void Rays when, you know, if he makes Corsairs, that would prohibit me from making Mutalisks. I could also make Mutalisks, but they're countered too easily by Corsairs. My Mutalisks are very expensive, and yes, they are good versus air, but again, Corsairs are much cheaper and counter them so much easier, so I'm a little hesitant to do that. Whereas Creeper Hosts are pretty much always... Unfortunately, they're just always good. I'll just keep getting Primal Regeneration. Our Stukov is doing pretty good here with the Swarm. And we also have leftover Rainer units that are doing a great job here. Can't get him to Haka. There are some Oracles, and that's where we want to be using Intimidating Roar. We'll get level 2 Intimidating Roar here momentarily. I could also, I mean, I could just get some normal Hydralisks to sit behind Dahaka as well. That really wouldn't be an issue. They do hold the middle. We just need to cross over here just a little bit, and that would be ideal. Again, we're very close to just having that critical mass of Creeper Hosts. I mean, we're not super close to having a critical mass of Creeper Hosts, but also they're a little off-center, which bothers me, so we got to make sure that they are, they're properly in the middle here. There we go. And, like, I'll just get, like, one Hydralisk. There we go. Again, I don't want to go too overboard with the Hydralisks. I think Stukov could probably stand to get some bunkers in here. Does he have bunkers? I don't think he has any bunkers. Again, that would pretty much directly counter the Fire Bats and the Vultures, just because they're obviously they're armored. The bunkers are. But in any case, he's winning his wave, so I really have nothing to say. Okay, excellent stuff. Let's go ahead and throw down our trophy, just to make him a little scared, and let's use our last worm here, otherwise it's wasted. Okay, we got a level. I think I'm going to actually level up Devour, because we want to make sure that we retain that anti-air attack that we get when we eat an air unit. Okay, so Rainer does get those free scans. And honestly, the infested civilians are doing great work just holding the fire bats up. But again, he could do the same thing making bunkers as well. Honestly, whatever he's doing is working, so I'm really not gonna complain. Okay, so let's make sure that we eat one of the air units. The range is good now. Let's throw down 2 of our worms so that we can make sure that we can see the oracles. And there we go. We'll throw down our last worm here. Dahaka's, we'll do what damage we can, and the Raven here, we're not going to get another round of Creeper Hosts off, but eventually, once we get enough Creeper Hosts, we're going to start overlapping into the next wave, which is obviously a bonus. And let's go ahead and get our next Extractor. Considering we've held the middle for most of the match, I don't know why I haven't gotten Extractors a little bit faster, but it's fine. I probably also want to grab Primal Attacks just because that does increase the amount of worms that we get. Not, what am I saying? That I was thinking about putting worms down here to help our ally. This is where, again, he could definitely use some bunkers, or tanks would be excellent as well. He's really committed to this, you know, massive infantry swarm, which is fine, but it's going to stop working here momentarily. And, again, getting some cheap units. You know, it's like they don't remember that these are here. If they can get one more... spawn off, then they've, you know, that would be excellent. There we go. There we go. Okay, and guess what? We just keep getting more. The power of Creeper Hosts, they are a little too good, I will say. Okay, they're finally just scanning now. I will say, I think I'm doing what I need to do here. I think our Stukov could probably afford to get some bunkers. Again, I've tried to, you know, I want to give help to my allies. I don't want to backseat them though. I don't want to tell them what they need to do. But it's more of a suggestion. There we go. We're roaring. We need to get Intimidating Roar level 2 though. That's very important. We can get a couple Primal Igniters to maybe counter these guys, but not super necessary. And again, as long as these things are left alive for one more wave of units, again, they start stacking, we're doing our job. Okay, we get a level here. We want to grab Intimidating Roar to stop the Oracles from being able to attack. Okay, these got a second wave off, so again, even though I'm letting a few things leak, the fact that I get 2 rounds with the Creeper Hosts, I might even get 3 here, means that I think I'm contributing to my team exactly as I should. We'll see again if the Stukov starts adapting, considering he is almost directly countered by this Rainer, but honestly, I didn't think that this kind of swarm would work against Firebad Vulture. Firebad Vulture is, you would imagine, works perfectly against him. But nope. Alright, let's make sure that we get a little bit of vision here. Go ahead and Scream. I will need a Void. I could eat an Oracle as well to get the explosion on Dahaka, but I think we're fine. Again, we're at the point now where we're absolutely killing it. Let's grab one more here. And I think what I'm going to do is queue up my next Extractor, considering I've been a little behind getting those. We've been ahead pretty much the whole game. I can either choose to just not get any more Extractors and assume the game will be over before then. I'm going to eat this Galleon, by the way. Thank you for that. It's a lot of HP, so it healed us up. Dahaka's actually still alive. And there he goes down, finally. And I do still have some worms. We might as well throw these out before we spawn again. And we're coming up on the end here. I think it's been a couple games now that I've played where I've played as Dahaka and done Creeper Host. The problem is they're just too good, and I think they're actually getting nerfed in the next. I think they're getting nerfed in the next iteration of Direct Strike. Nerfed in the sense that they're going to cost more. But once they start stacking like this, that's how you win. It puts you, it's a risky maneuver in the sense that, you know, if you allow your allies to get a little too off base and unable to keep up with their waves because you're leaking too much trying to get to these Creeper Hosts, you could lose the game. Even though, you know, you're taking that gamble to say, in the late game, oh, we would have won. But if you don't get to the late game, that's why it's a risk. And some people play that game, that's kind of the whole idea with the Extractors as well. Like, these haven't paid for themselves, meaning it was almost pointless that I made them. I could have made more units, and we probably would have won in that last wave. So that's a perfect example of a situation where, again, we would have won had I not gotten Extractors. So, again, a lot of people will talk about, like, oh, you should or should not get Extractors in certain situations. Again, if they haven't paid for themselves, then frankly, no, they haven't paid for themselves, period. I'm going to get Keen Senses so I don't have to worry about putting worms down at specific times. And I have one worm here just to ensure that my allies can see what they need to see. No spellcasters here. Let's just eat a Void Ray. Dahaka's real beefed up now. I built one extra Hydralisk. Getting Leap for these Han and Horner units could be pretty good here, too. And I have to start considering what I want to do versus Han and Horner as well. Tyrannosaurus would have been okay if he went Mass Oracle and Corsair. You can bait him into making Corsairs by making Mutalisk, but that's a pricey endeavor, which would then force him to make Corsairs, at which point you can make Tyrannosaurus to counter. Tyrannosaurs are very good against light air, but would probably get killed by Void Rays. So as soon as I saw him commit to Void Rays, that's when I decided, okay, we're just going to make Creeper Hosts instead. Alternatively, just a big swarm of Hydralisks would have worked too. It's hard to say. And our Stukov is still winning with just mass-infested Terrans. I'm actually kind of surprised that this Rainer hasn't simply built... Alright, let's go ahead and eat one of these. Oh no, I thought I clicked on an Oracle, but I guess not. Let's make sure that we give some vision here, even though Dahaka's a detective, he's going to die pretty fast. Here and here. And based on some of the leaks that are coming from the other waves, again, they're stacking up with the Vikings there as well. The Viking AoE damage is going to hurt the creeper spawns. Let's see, again, if we get one extra spawn here, we just wipe out a huge portion of this Han and Horner wave as well. And it just seems like they're not really able to counter these. And the game is going longer than I expected. Again, if I wouldn't have gotten these refineries, we probably could have gotten maybe one or two extra creeper hosts, and we could have won in that one wave. Now, I guess, in a way, they're sort of paying for themselves. They will have the opportunity to pay for themselves because the game is going longer. So, again, that's what I like about Direct Strike. Again, it's very much hands-off, except for, you know, you can strategically think about opportunity cost. a lot. And that's what I like the most about it, again, is really thinking about that opportunity cost, all the different opportunity costs here. This Rainer needs to be using his free scans every wave. But it's fine. Oh, those are our Banshees. Very nice. Okay, large amounts of Creeper Hosts. Again, if we can do anything that helps against these waves of Han and Horner that are coming in here. I'm going to eat the Galleons, just because they probably restore a lot of life. And we have leftover Vikings here that are helping us against the lifted Vikings of Han and Horner. Han and Horner Vikings, unless you explicitly tell them to stay grounded and disable their ability to lift off, will always prioritize air. I've talked about this a little bit in previous episodes, but it's really, you know, sometimes you need an understanding of what units will, if they can attack air and ground, what are they going to prioritize first? Thors, for example, prioritize air, and you have to turn that air attack off. All right, I'm going to go ahead and upgrade. I think we could just get chitinous plating and allow him to stay alive just a little bit longer. We're clumping up here, and yeah, we've got these creeper hosts still left over. And it looks like the Volatile Infested finished it up. We gave him a GG. Another one that's important to understand, again, is the Vikings of Han and Horner. Very strong versus ground and air, for that matter, but they will always lift off to attack air. Even if there's a million Hydralisks on the ground and one Overseer, they'll lift up to kill the Overseer first. You can exploit that if that player doesn't realize that they need to turn off the Vikings' ability to lift off in the first place. So again, that's the kind of stuff that, again, the game is mostly hands-off, but there's little strategic things that can actually make really big differences, and that's why I particularly enjoy this. Coming in hot in the damage, low units lost count, because we went high cost, low number of units, and it worked out because they stacked up, even though sometimes we had some leaks get through. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye now.